What's up, everyone, and welcome back to a game review here on Save the Game Media. My name is Kevin, aka the Muffin Mon, and today I'm joined by my co-host Ethan, Mr. Physical Copy, to discuss Cult of the Lamb. Ethan, how you doing?
Today is a great day, Kevin. I have officially ordered a PlayStation 5. I've got the Horizon Forbidden West bundle out of the
Mm,
PlayStation Store. And shout out to you. You're the one that put it in Discord that the queue was up. I jumped in there. I had absolutely no hope. It said your wait is over an hour. It was in 15 minutes and I had it
mhm.
in my cart. It was great.
Like,
I had a blast. I have never typed in my address so
so
fast and
fast.
so scared. I crossed all my T's, dotted all my I's. I was terrified, but it's coming in 2 days. I should be getting it by Friday or Saturday, so I'll have the weekend
Mhm.
with this bad boy.
Super exciting. It's an awesome feeling.
Yeah.
Our Discord was all popping off for you. It's very exciting seeing your friend get a new piece of hardware, and then we're gonna have more
Mhm.
games to play together. It's gonna be
And I'm gonna
so.
be on more content.
That's right, more content. That's right. We can God of War Ragnarok spoiler
Oh,
cast,
it's
but
gonna be everybody.
yeah, for real though. But we're not here to talk about PlayStation. We are here to talk about Cult of the Lamb. If you like our content over here on Save the Game Media, please make sure to subscribe to the channel. Head on over to all audio platforms. You can go to our link tree, get all four main podcasts we do, or go to our Patreon at patreon.com/save the game media. Choose the tier that's right for you. You can get all of our content early. That means this review discussion you could have got 2 days early from the time you're hearing it right now if you're a patron. So head on over there, choose a tier. But I want to get into this discussion. Call of the Lamb. Ethan, you have played it. How many hours did
Mhm.
you put into it?
I believe total about 15 hours. It's definitely not a long game at all. So yeah, 15 hours so far. I grinded a bit for some achievements to get over 80% of the gamer
Mm,
score. So I would say probably about 4 of those hours were solid grinding. So you could probably knock this out in 8 to 10 hours.
yeah, so I did knock it out in 8 hours.
Yeah.
I think my playtime was about 8.5 hours total. I didn't go for the achievements. I just did the story, and then that was enough for me. I feel like I experienced the game. What are your overall impressions of Cult of the Lamb?
I absolutely adored it. I'm not much of a guy for roguelikes. I often think they are too grindy and too long, and it can just get repetitive and boring. I felt that the gameplay in this though was, or at least the crusades they call it that you go on when you go into these dungeons, they were short enough. I don't think I did a crusade that was over 15 minutes. I think that was probably the longest crusade I did,
Mhm,
and I felt that worked perfectly for this because you just get that quick hit of high octane action, and then you're back at your cult, kind of managing things, slowing things down, trying to manage your group of people, building different buildings. I felt that there was a really good balance of that gameplay that made it interesting. It progression felt really good.
mhm.
So overall, the gameplay for me was absolutely 10 out of 10. I was having a blast, but with the added caveat that, at least for me, and I've heard different reports from a lot of different people on different systems, different
Mhm.
consoles, on PC, that the game is almost unplayable after a certain point. I've heard people say after the third boss it gets really bad. For me personally, it was after I had defeated the final boss, the fifth
Mm.
boss, when the game just basically I couldn't get through a crusade without it crashing, which was really frustrating because I was trying to do the runs where you do the boss fights without taking a hit. I was
Yeah.
able to get 3 of the 4 of them. I didn't feel like going for the fourth one, but I would go into a dungeon, get a weapon that I really liked, get a ranged attack that I really liked. And I'm like, okay, I can definitely beat the boss with these. And then I
Mhm.
would get right to the end and it would freeze up, or an enemy would become invisible, or the game
Mm.
would just straight up crash. So there was a lot of technical issues on the back end for the game so far, though, or for overall, from start to finish, the game worked perfectly for me. And I thought I was about to have a great experience. It's really sad
Mhm.
to see that there was some technical issues there. I don't know how you let that bad of a thing slip. It's strange
Yeah.
how it happens only after the final boss fight. But overall, I think if you don't include those issues that I had, this game's this game was perfect for me.
Hmm.
Absolutely adored it.
I think I fall similarly to where you're landing with the game. I am not a roguelike person. I don't like those types of games. And I don't like Animal Crossing, village
Right.
management style games. So when I heard, I think I was talking to Sam, and he said, like, that's really what this game is a combination of those two mechanics. I was kind of out. I was like, all right, this game's not for me. I'm not going to enjoy it. Hopple, shout out Hopple, our patron over in the Discord. He told me that, there's a demo on Steam. Go try it out. So I was like, great, this is exactly what I need. Love this new system of demos making a return. Square
Yeah,
Enix
that
is
that
big on them.
needs to happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
huge, love it. So I played it on Steam for a little bit. I really liked the demo, so I was like, all right, $25. I'm gonna pick this game up, and I had a very enjoyable experience with Call of the Lamb. I really like the dungeons that you go through, the crusades, whatever you want to call them. For me, this is less of a roguelike, and I feel like it was because I didn't die. There were points
Right.
where I came close to dying. There are some challenges that, the further you get in the game, the more enemies become
Hmm.
difficult, get new little mechanics. But for me, I feel like it was basically a dungeon crawler for me,
Hmm.
is how I was playing it. Like dungeon crawling, but random items, random power ups, stuff like that. Um, I really enjoyed that actually, because you can customize. So we can talk more about it, but you eventually get like certain customizations for each run that, like going in, you can your fleeces and stuff. I really like those mechanics. Um, what I didn't really like was the management aspect of the game. That is where it bogs down for me. Those are my really only negatives besides the bugs and the glitches that you were mentioning. My issues fall strictly with the management part of this game. That got really old really fast for me.
Mm. Yeah, I think I found myself trying to scale back how big my cult was because I didn't want to get too. There was a time near the end, like the fourth or fifth boss, where I figured out, okay, I'm starting to spend more time managing this cult, coming back and having to do a bunch of things than I am on Crusades, and I
Mhm.
really want to be going on Crusades. So I
Yes.
actually started sacrificing some followers, letting them die off, not recruiting some more, and I scaled back the size of my cult, and I think that really helped me get through the final bits of the gameplay where I was like, okay, now I'm back hooked in, because there was a point where I had like 25 cult members, and
Oh, I was
I
gonna say
kept having to come back and rebuild everything, clean
Mhm.
it up. I had to get upgrades, do this, do my sermons, do my confessions for everybody. There was so much going on, and I'm like, okay, I'm starting to stray too far into this. And I think that's a good aspect of this game, in that you can control how much really you want to pay
Mhm.
attention to your cult. You can have a small cult throughout the game. You can only have 5 members, a couple buildings. You really don't need to pay crazy attention. Obviously, you need them for upgrades and stuff like that. So it's good to get a bunch of cult members up front, get your upgrades that you want, then move on. And like what I did, once you get to the end and you have the upgrades you want, just start kind of letting them die off or killing off your cult members and stuff. But
I
to your points about how you didn't want to jump into this because it was like the
Mhm.
roguelike aspects and the Animal Crossing aspects, I think the best part about this game is it didn't go too deep in either of those
Either, yep.
aspects. Yeah, I'm not saying it was shallow. There was still plenty of cool mechanics in there, but it didn't feel at all times like a complete slog having to come back and do all your tasks. It didn't feel like a slog being 25 or 30 minutes into a dungeon run. Everything was kind of quick and fast paced, and you're constantly changing tempo when you're playing this game. And I really think that's a good gameplay loop that kept me hooked, at
Mhm.
least. So I think that really helped in this game.
No, I would agree with you because I feel like if I was doing 2-hour runs like a Returnal style
Right. Yeah.
roguelike game,
Hmm.
that this game would not have been for me. It would not
Exactly.
have appealed to me. If had to spend hours managing my town, this would not have been for me. But it wasn't that. It really was 5 to 11 minute runs in the dungeons.
Right.
The combat was simple enough, accessible enough for everyone to approach it. And then you have the management stuff, which most of the time basically just consisted of collecting resources for me. Okay, because and I want to know how you played because already I can tell that I think we played our cult a little differently because you were talking about confessions and I have no idea what
Yeah.
you're talking about. So like the way I set up my cult right from the start was I was like I'm gonna get every follower I can. That's what I'm gonna prioritize. I don't care if there's a path with a follower. That's where I'm going in the dungeon because I want to rescue them. So my cult, I think I ended with about 28 cult members, and that was after a few died. And I sacrificed a few. And
Yep.
I basically had the majority of them, probably 20 out of the 28, strictly worshiping me, giving me their
Yeah.
devotion. Yeah, so I had them giving my devotion so I can get more upgrades because I felt like the management part was actually benefiting me in the dungeon. I think it became apparent maybe halfway through the second one, then I was like, okay, I need more upgrades. Like I think these dungeons are getting a little more difficult, but I think if I spend a little more time upgrading my area, that they'll become easier. And lo and behold, they did. Especially the sermons where you unlock higher level weapons. And I was like, okay, I got like level 6 weapons now or whatever. Like I'm
Yeah.
wrecking everyone. So, how did you set up?
So for my cult, I really tried to focus on it becoming self-sufficient. So really quickly, I got the upgrades for the lumberyard, for the mines, for the refineries, stuff like that, because I wanted constant resources being churned out every time I came back. So I didn't have to go through and knock down a bunch of trees and do a lot of stuff. Like at the beginning, you have to knock down trees, hit rocks, but eventually you can build like lumberyards and stuff
Yeah.
that just gives you basically infinite, and you just rebuild them when they break down. So my big thing was self-sufficiency, and
Mhm.
also just trying to front load all as many of the upgrades as I could, doing sermons every single day so that I can get all the upgrades
Yep.
and stuff like that. And so eventually got to the point where I could just come back to the cult, rebuild some things that were there, and then collect my resources, build some more stuff if I want to, and head back out on a crusade. But like I said, near the end, when I was getting a lot of cult members and, people were dying, there was conflicts, maybe there was a heretic or two when I came back, I'm like, okay, this is getting to be a little much. So I scaled it
Mhm.
back a bit. But very much I wanted my cult to be self-sufficient, so I didn't have to do as many tasks when I came back. It was a lot of it was automated. I even had like a cleaning station so the cult members would clean up themselves, and I had outhouses so that I didn't have to deal with their poop or vomit all over the
Mhm.
place and having to go around and clean it. So that's how I pretty much set up my cult.
It's interesting because I set up basically one. I had beds for everyone, but I basically
Yeah.
gave everyone the little like sleeping bags, and only a
Mhm.
few people had anything more than that because I was like, I can't be bothered to waste my resources.
I
Like they
think
have
I
a
upgraded to the tents. That was my second one. And then
I gave a few above the tents, but it was
yeah,
like it's not worth it. It's not worth it for me. I did the lumberyard, did the mining because I did want like okay, I need these resources to try to
yeah.
build. But after a while, I was like, what am I building all these houses for? Because like I don't really see a point in. I never felt there was a reason to actually build them.
Yeah, and I think that's where it's going to turn into a game that people that love Animal Crossing are really going to enjoy, because there is a lot of decorating aspects to this cult. There's
Hmm.
a lot of different, customization options you can do for your cult. There's different themes you can put around your cult, and of course, all the dungeons unlock specific things, and you can buy different items to build and everything like that. My type of play, I'm about efficiency. I'm about how is it benefiting me? I don't really care much for the decorations. I think I did one or two decorations just because it was part of a
A
cultist
quest,
quest,
yes, yep,
and
same.
I could get some faith from that. And then my wife wanted me to build all the pumpkin statues and make a bunch of jack-o'-lanterns, so I did that too. That wasn't too much to ask for. And then yeah, pretty much my whole cult was just efficiency. I didn't have decorations, but I'm telling you, for people that love that Animal Crossing style gameplay where you get to decorate a lot, you are absolutely going to fall in love with this. There are so
Hmm.
many different decorations that you can do, and I'm sure they're going to release some DLC packs in the future. I know people who are playing this game that are friends of mine that love those type of aspects, and I can't wait to see what they got going in their cults.
So you mentioned your cult. I've heard this before that some of the cultists could become like heretics and try to rise against
Yeah.
you. I did not have a single cult member misbehave the entirety of my cult. So my every cult member of mine was just doing their work, giving me their devotion, attending sermons. I married a few of them. It was literally
Yeah.
just like happy as can be. And it was strange because their primary food source for me was bowls of grass. I
Yeah.
was literally feeding them
You
grass.
gave them that perk to where
I
they
gave them the
liked the
perk where they
grass.
don't,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, where they like the grass because the grass is the easiest resource to get in this game. So
Hmm.
I'm just gonna feed them grass. No one ever complained. I did feed someone a bowl of poop twice because
Yeah,
one
you
of my
do that
cult
for
members thought it
skin.
was funny. So I did that for him. But in terms of like because when you do your sermons, right, and you level up,
Yeah.
you get to choose like different doctrines, and you can go kind of like
Hmm.
a nice route or a mean route, basically,
Yeah.
right? What did you lean more nice or mean? Because for me, I was very much like whatever is the nicest option to make them love me is what I'm going to do. Like make their lives easier, do everything that I can for them. But so like I didn't have a prison, I didn't have heretics, I
Oh.
didn't have confession, I didn't have any of those types of things.
So I definitely did, in terms of those doctrine perks, I did go the nice route for the most part. I didn't do many rituals. I honestly probably only did 5 rituals during my playthrough. I never really felt the need. My faith had always been pretty high. The only times where it got
Mhm.
low enough to where I got heretics is there was one run where like 5 people got sick because a boss made them sick. And then there was like 2 deaths. And I hadn't come back from my run yet to like clean it up, so my faith had tanked, and that caused the heretic to come through. And then there was another one where I think I just forgot to feed them for a couple days because I was just going in and out of dungeons trying to grind something and find get money and resources and stuff. And I was like, oh shoot, I got a heretic now. So I did build a stockade and I did imprison those heretics, but I
Oh,
re-educated them. I didn't sacrifice them.
re-educated.
I re-educated them. I brought them back into the family, and everything was hunky dory with that. So the heretic, if you're playing on easy, you're not going to get really any heretics. I can
Mm,
imagine though, if you're playing on hard, it can get pretty hectic trying to manage this because if you get heretics in your cult, it will reduce the amount of faith that your other cult members have, and eventually they can also turn into heretics. So it can
mm.
spread like wildfire. That's why you got to build prisons
Kind of
or
like
keep them
disease.
happy. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I know because I had a few drop dead, and then like the bodies were laying there, and
Yeah.
I only built one grave, and I was like, I'm just gonna cut them up and feed them. I
Oh,
can't be
no,
bothered. Yeah,
I
yeah.
had like 2 big cemeteries that all had gravestones because the cool thing about that is that you're basically farming faith from those gravestones because every day everyone
Mm.
goes and pays their respects at like good grave markers. I'm not talking about the initial one you build with just the
Yeah,
sticks.
yeah,
I'm talking
yeah.
about the stone one that you have to refine the stones for. And pretty much your faith fills up to max every day when they go
Interesting.
do it. So I had probably about 15 different grave sites because the more you play, the more cultists die of old age and
Hmm.
stuff. And I buried every single one in a nice grave site. Every morning, my faith went to max because all of them just went to the cemetery, paid their respects, and went back. So there were times after I got most of my unlocks, I just wasn't doing sermons anymore because I just
Hmm.
had no reason to build my faith up. So that's a cool mechanic actually that I'm glad I mentioned.
I think that's something I'm learning in this discussion is that there is a lot of little mechanics that like
Hmm.
you won't see if you go down a certain route. Like
Right.
people behave in different ways. The AI won't ever react the same way to certain
Hmm.
situations. Because I did a lot of rituals. I was marrying my cultists. I was sacrificing the old ones because they like it built faith for them. They wanted to die in my name.
Yeah.
And funny thing was, I unlocked a thing to bring back dead cultists, and when you
I
bring them
did too.
back,
They
they
hate
don't
it.
like it. They don't
I did
like
it
it.
once and they were really mad because
Yeah,
my first ever cultist died. I'm like, I'll bring him back.
same.
He's the OG. And then I brought him back and everyone was pissed with me.
They're mad.
I
Yeah,
was like, yo, chill. Like
I was like,
this is
oh,
my boy right there.
all
Come
right,
on.
guys. All right, yeah. I didn't name any of my cultists. I
No,
literally
I
just
just
went with their default because I
yeah.
was like, I see everyone's having fun with it, but for me, it's like if I name them and then I have to kill them, I'm gonna be a little like, oh no, like
Yeah, you
that
can't be
was the one I
attached to
liked.
him.
Yeah, 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 exactly. Like
They were
they really,
resources to me when I played this game.
they 100% are resources,
As
and
awful as it sounds.
I mean, it is. Listen, all right. I'm like giving them all this stuff, and then all they do is poop everywhere. I
Yeah.
build them an outhouse, they're still pooping
You
everywhere.
gotta clean the outhouse, Kevin.
I
You
do
gotta
clean
stop
the
that.
outhouse, they're still just pooping everywhere. I'm like, bro, what are you doing? I'm giving
I
you
think
grass every day.
I built like 3 or 4 outhouses,
Oh, I
like
only
all in
had
the same
one.
area.
I
Yeah,
only had
you got it.
one.
They fill up quick. It's only like 5 trips and it fills up.
Hmm.
You got to
Hmm.
build a bunch of those bad boys.
So apart from the management gameplay,
Hmm.
the dungeon crawling
Yeah.
sort section of that, there was a lot of weapons and curses that you could
Hmm.
get in this to go through the dungeon. The gameplay is pretty simplistic, right? You have a dodge, you have your basic attack with the melee weapon, and then you have a spell. That's
Yeah.
really all there is to this game, right? What weapons did you prefer? Did you not like? What was your preferred style? Because it is random.
Yeah. I definitely preferred the bigger, large damage weapons like the hammer, like
My
the axe,
man.
because for me, I with combat, I'm really good with timing in video game combat. That's why I was really good with Elden Ring. Timing is everything with me in combat. And if you give me a hammer that has a time frame on it when I swing and you aim it and then you come down with it, I'm gonna get it every time. So once I do a couple runs with a hammer, I'm pretty good with it. I'm pretty proficient with it. So I love the high damage stuff because I could just do my rolls, hit, rolls hit, and I could get through different areas very quickly. Because honestly, with any roguelike, this is the problem. When you go into a crusade after 10 hours of gameplay, you're like, okay, I just want to get through these rooms so
Hmm.
that I can get to the end, or I can get to this resource pocket, or I can get to this upgrade. I'm not really caring much for the combat in between, because I've seen it all already. And that's
Hmm.
another thing I want to point out, in that if you're a huge fan of roguelikes and you love those big, expansive roguelikes that have lots of variety, you're not going to be playing this game for 100 hours and still finding new stuff.
No.
It's fairly straightforward. You have your initial weapon room, you have the tarot card reader, unless you're wearing the fleece that gives you 4 up front, which I did.
Hmm.
I love
Yeah,
that
I
fleece.
did as well.
Yep. So you got the tarot card reader. You got a few random merchants here and there that'll give you upgrades, but once they run out, because there's a finite amount of different resources and upgrades you can get, or blueprints and stuff. So eventually those just become useless. Or there's just a regular room where you got to fight people. So there's not an insane amount of variety. It was enough to
Hmm.
keep you hooked for the 15 hours, I think, that the gameplay. I enjoyed looking at the different stuff. I enjoyed seeing how far I could get in a dungeon run. I did that a couple of times where I just kept recycling and trying to see how far. I think I made it to like 4 different maps that I made through, and I'm like,
Mm.
all right, I'm just going to go back to my cult now. But you're definitely not going to be blown away by variety. But
Yeah.
it is a bite-sized roguelike game. It'll keep you hooked for the time being.
Yeah, I feel the same. It wasn't anything like there were certain times at the start where it's like, all right, I want to explore every room in this dungeon because what if
Right.
there's a tarot card reader in there? What if there's some other sort of like new weapon that I can find? But once you get through probably the first or second dungeon, I'm kind of just like, where's the exit?
Yeah.
Let me get through this room, and if I happen to stumble upon something along the way, great. If I don't, I'm just gonna go on to the next. I feel like the gameplay itself isn't very deep. You know, it is very much like I preferred like you the giant weapons,
Yep.
axes or hammers, where it was like massive damage,
Hmm.
roll, yeah, and kind of keeping that flow. So you do it's pretty simplistic. So you do like your 3 runs, and then the fourth one you fight the overall big boss, the bishop, and there's
Yeah.
4 bishops, and they all have there is a story in this game, but it's nothing like super special, right? Like they
Yeah.
kill you because you're like the last of the believers or whatever. You get resurrected by the one who waits, I think his name was, I believe,
Yeah.
in chains. You build a cult for him, and then as you go along you kind of learn the backstory, like why these bishops imprisoned him and what happened. It's really nothing super special in my opinion. That's not
Yeah.
what you're here for. You're here for the gameplay, and the gameplay is fun enough, but I do think that like it doesn't overstay its welcome. If it had kept
Right.
going, then I would have been like, all right, this game needs to slow its roll. So
Yeah.
I think it had the perfect amount of length. I think it has the right amount of detail, I would say, for this type of game. Because I don't want that super complicated rogue like where I'm managing a bunch of
Yeah.
systems and like dying and coming back to life over and over and over. Like that would have been off-putting to me. But
Yeah.
um,
Did you
there's
like Knucklebones?
I was just going to bring up there's one other aspect we have to talk about, and it's there's side areas outside of your
Yeah.
cult, right? Like there's you can go fish, you can play a game called Knuckle Bones. You can go to some
I found these
gambling
areas more
area.
interesting than the main story, exploring them and finding
I
the
liked
secrets in
these
them.
areas.
Hmm.
So I the fishing was interesting. Like you basically just have to hold A within like a certain area, right, to
Yeah.
catch the fish.
You get really good at that real quickly.
Yes, it's very. I caught all the fish. Like, great, whatever.
Yeah.
That's all you really need to do there. The bedding area, I didn't really spend much time in, and
Hmm.
then you have the mushroom area,
The
which was
mushroom guy was really funny.
he
He's
was
just
out
trying
there,
to
man.
brainwash all of his followers with
Hmm.
psychedelics, and then
Yeah,
you
yeah,
have
yeah.
to do that with your cult to get a skin. It's so funny.
But I do think that the best side area was Knuckle Bones, where you
Yeah.
went and you played a pseudo dice game
Hmm.
within Call of the Lamb. I beat every single one of them.
Oh yeah.
I thought it was a fun little like strategy game. Like
Yeah.
you have to try to multiply your numbers by matching it with 2 in a row or 3 in a row and canceling out other people's dice. I thought it was a
Yeah.
really fun game.
It's very simple, but it's really, really addicting. Like it's like playing liar's dice in Red Dead Redemption. You just get so addicted and you can't stop. I played Knucklebones probably an hour out of the 15-hour gameplay
Hmm.
that I had. I was just playing it, even after I had already gotten the achievements for the Knucklebones games.
Just
But
fun.
yeah, it was just for fun. I gotta ask, speaking of these side areas, did you find the secret fox? like the really dark
No,
fox.
no, you mentioned this, and I haven't the slightest idea what you're talking about.
So there's this fox that you can find. There's 4 different areas where you can find him, and there's a little moon symbol in the different side areas that you can go to, and that's where he is. And you have to go at night. So, for example, in the fishing area with the lighthouse, that red bridge or that red pier that goes out at the bottom that seems useless. If you go out there at night, you'll get a prompt to peer into the darkness. And then the first thing that you have to do is sacrifice a fish to him. Then you sacrifice a follower. Then you get a choice to sacrifice either 2 followers or half of your heart, a half heart permanently from your health bar. And then, and this is spoiler alert for anyone that really cares, you remember Ratau, the guy that started the knuckle bones and all that?
Mhm.
The
Yeah.
final thing you sacrifice is him. And you get 4 holy you get a holy talisman complete for doing all 4 of those sacrifices, and you get the rat skin for your followers by sacrificing Ratau. So that's what's really sad too, because you can meet Ratau's brother during the Crusades. He has a little shop. Or no, he doesn't have the shop. He has like the heart fountain where you get full health and stuff like that, and you get a bunch of hearts. If you show
Mhm.
up after you sacrifice him, he will be asking you, "Oh, I recognize you. How's my brother doing? Can you tell him I said hi?" It's like, yeah, sure. And you literally sacrifice him to the dark god. And the whole time that Ratau, when he's summoned, he's like, "You shouldn't have listened to him. You should have listened to him." He
Oh
just
my
gets
god,
sucked into a dark
no.
void. And I'm like, oh God, what did I just do? I feel terrible.
Yo,
But
is there an achievement for that?
no, it's just how you get one of the
What?
skins. So
Bro,
because
I
I
feel
was
like that should have been an achievement.
yeah, because I wanted to get all of the skins, so whenever they do patch it, because that's one of the achievements that's unobtainable right now, is you have to get all the skins, but there's one skin that you just can't get. They you need these snail shells or whatever, and the mobs don't drop them. It's just a glitch right now.
Mm.
So whenever they update it, I'll just jump in there, get the snails, get the skin, get the achievement. That's the only reason I did it. But yeah, I love those little side areas. I felt the characters were really fun.
Mhm.
The creepiest one was probably like that gold wax museum
Yeah.
place where you would sacrifice your followers and they would turn into like the wax statues and stuff. You
Mhm.
felt really bad doing that, but it's like, hey, I got to get these talismans so I can unlock these fleeces.
And he was also asking for, like, a bunch of gold, and, like, I didn't have enough gold to
I
keep
did that
donating.
once. I did that once. I
Same.
gave 230 to the well. I came back 3 days later and it said your offering was rejected and it gave me 5 things of poop. And I'm like, okay, I'm never doing this again. That sucks.
Oh man, I don't know. This game I think is one of the, even with the bugs and glitches, which are frustrating.
Yeah.
I had them as well. I think it's still one of the best games I've played this year.
Mm,
I do recommend it for anyone that's, it's a slow season right now, especially with new releases. This is a game you probably should pick up, even
yeah.
if you don't like roguelites or Animal Crossing like I did. I would still recommend this. I think there is a lot of fun to be had here. It's a short experience. I don't know. I'm not saying it's my game of the year, but I think it's probably in my top 10 for the year so far.
Yeah, I could probably agree with you on that. I was very, very entertained by this game. It hooked me. I couldn't put it down. I think the $25 price point is fair for this game.
Hmm.
Right now, though, with all the bugs, just be wary of that. Like I said, in my experience, they didn't start happening until after I had already completed the entire main storyline. So, the blow was a little softened there. It
Hmm.
wasn't that big of a deal to me. But if you do experience these halfway through, it might suck for you. So
Yeah.
just be wary of that. If you really want this game, but you don't want to invest yet because of the bugs, keep up to date on their Reddit, their Twitter, stuff like that. They already said that they're working on it. They've already
Hmm.
apologized. They've done the whole thing, the CD Project
Yeah,
Red
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, but hopefully they get that stuff done quickly. But for me, for my purchase, I thought it was incredibly worth it. Absolutely love this game. Yeah, and I can't wait to see whatever Devolver Digital puts out next, because it seems like every game they publish is just a blast. So
Absolutely. Like I said, Devolver doesn't miss.
no,
For
they
me,
don't.
they have put out some of the best games I've played
They
this
gave
year,
you a roguelike management game that you
and I
fell in
liked
love
it.
with.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And they just have a lot of good faith for me. I
Yeah,
very much like they pick games that I really enjoy, and I don't know. They got something.
they
They
know what
know
they're doing.
whoever's identifying those games to
Hmm.
publish. They got a good eye. But I think that's where we'll wrap it up.
Hmm.
I think we're both pretty much in agreement on Call of the Lamb. But let us know your thoughts down below in the comments. Are you having bugs, glitches? How much fun you're having? Have you done anything different besides what we mentioned with your call? Are you ruling with an iron fist? Please let us know in the comments down below. While you're down there, remember to subscribe, drop the video a like, head on over to all audio platforms, drop us a 5-star review. That would help us so much grow the channel, grow our brand. And like I said, patreon.com. You can subscribe, get all of our content early. And Ethan, where can people find you?
They can find me at WhiteCedar1 on Twitter and Gravy3448 on Xbox, and soon Gravy3448 on PSN. Let's do it.
How sad are you gonna be if that username's taken for some reason?
There's no way it's taken, Kevin. Come on, we
Who
gotta have
knows?
faith. We gotta have faith.
Yeah, we gotta like Limp Bizkit says, gotta have faith.
I had faith to get the PlayStation today. I have faith that my gamer tag is going to be available.
Well, that's great. Well, you can find me at the Muffin Mon to 1-7I and 0-7A. Follow us at Save Game Media to stay up to date with all of our latest videos and podcasts. Until next time, we'll see you.